Hi, Danielle. Thank you so much for joining me for an interview.
Absolutely.
To start us out, just in case anybody's not familiar with you yet, will you just share a little bit about your business journey, how you became an entrepreneur, and what you do now?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always had a passion for baking.
Mhm.
And back in the fall of 2021, I decided that I wanted to turn that passion into a little home bakery selling macarons or French macaron. And
Mhm.
so, therefore, I gave my little business a clever name. I called it French Vanilla Bakery. And I started taking orders. And actually, it was overall a success. I had a lot of support from my, local community, but I really wanted to improve my online presence, and
Mhm.
I wanted to have beautiful photos on my website and on my socials that I could share to market my macaroons. And so I'm looking around at other food photographers at what they're doing. I'm like, I want my photos to look like theirs. So I actually enrolled in a food photography course and I quickly picked it up. And I actually started working with a client after just a couple weeks.
Wow.
And all the while, I was still taking my macaroon orders, but I decided that I wasn't really loving the home bakery thing. And I
Mhm.
had unlocked this new passion for food photography. I stopped taking orders for my home bakery, and then I started focusing solely on developing my photography skills. And then that also gave me an opportunity to branch out and bake different things. I wasn't limiting myself to just like macarons anymore.
Mhm.
And after that, I actually gained a few more clients and I pivoted my business, changed the name to French Vanilla Photography
Mhm.
instead. And here we are 2.5 years later. And I've built a portfolio and some really meaningful relationships with some clients and other creators in my network. And it's just been a really unexpected journey. And that's where I am now.
Yes, I love your story. And for those that don't know, Danelle was my client a few months ago. I did her new branding and website, but she's just such a talented photographer. And I was so amazed that like you didn't have a photography background. You just decided you want to learn it and just really flourished from there.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I had a camera, and I
Mhm.
had maybe dabbled in a little bit of photography in the past, but um, yeah, it was just kind of, I picked it up and decided that's what I wanted to do.
That's awesome. Is there anything in particular that comes to mind, especially maybe something you learned in your early days of your business or in life in general that kind of shapes what you value as a leader and how you choose to run your business today?
Well, yeah, I would say back in 2020 and 2021, my
Mhm.
life kind of was flipped upside down like a lot of other people.
Mhm.
And with my full-time corporate job, things became pretty unclear. And I wasn't even sure if I would be able to keep my job with everything that was
Mhm.
happening. And really, that just it prompted me to begin to really ponder what my future looked like. And
Mhm.
I wanted to take it upon myself to create a business that was my own, that couldn't be just taken away from me in the blink of an eye. Um, but also I was looking for an outlet that sparked joy, where I could, express my creative side. I work in IT, so that's not overly creative when I'm
Yeah.
just managing support tickets. So taking that step, and when I decided to start my little home bakery, that was kind of my first step in owning my own future. And even though I still do work my corporate job and I absolutely love it, and I'm very thankful for that, it was a learning experience for me to start my own business and something that is fully mine that I can own. And it definitely wasn't easy. And
Mhm.
as I've, kind of shared with the experience of how it all started, I didn't really even know where it was going. But I just knew that I was being led to keep going.
Mhm.
I stuck with it. I prayed on it relentlessly, and
Mhm.
the results have been even better than I imagined. So the experience of just starting, even though I didn't exactly know where I wanted to end up, that was a valuable life lesson for me to learn, that we all have to start somewhere.
For sure. Yeah, sorry about my dog barking in the background. She was asleep. The noise scared her.
That's okay.
Yeah,
Mine was getting up and looking outside. I was worried he
yeah,
was going to start barking at something outside as well.
but I love what you just shared of, having something because you do work a full-time job, but your business allows you to have something that can't be taken away from you. It's yours to do what you want with. And like you said, starting somewhere and really seeing where it can grow from there.
Hmm. Hmm. Because where I started is definitely not where I ended up.
Mhm.
And
For sure.
if I wouldn't have just started, then I probably wouldn't be where I am now. So um, it was really eye opening and really encouraging.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you mentioned, you enrolled in the food photography course to learn it. Um, but what was that like? Like, was there anything in particular that sticks out with, I guess, developing your skills and how'd you go about really practicing, I guess, and making sure you learned food photography well?
Yeah, most of what I know about food photography did come from that online food photography course.
Hmm.
It's called Foodtography School.
Okay.
And I had already been following some other food bloggers and food photographers and just kind of observing what they were doing. And I had seen more than one person mention foodtography school. And I really
Hmm.
liked the results that were coming out of their experience with it. So I decided, I think this is something that I want to try. So,
Hmm.
what I liked about this course is that it could be taken entirely online and I could
Hmm.
go at my own pace. And it also made me part of a larger food photography school community. So through that, I
Definitely.
was able to connect with other food photography students and alumni. And I've met so many other creators. And we've been able to discuss things and share tips and tricks. Like I've made so many friends through food
Hmm.
photography school. So food photography school taught me a lot of the fundamentals, things like lighting, composition, editing, things that are just, really crucial to food photography in general. And I do all of mine with natural light.
Okay.
So taking all of what I learned in food photography school and then applying it with my own style and the lighting in my own house, which might be different to other people. Um, Lots of practice, persistence, trying different things, but really sticking with it. I mean, that's kind of what my journey has been like. So there's been a lot of factors, but
Hmm.
keeping at it and just practicing with
Yeah.
anything else. I know everybody says that, but it's so true.
Yeah. It's true with design too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what's your favorite part of being a food photographer?
Well, I have always had an interest in photography in general, but what I like about food photography is that I can control all of the details. And I tend to really enjoy working independently. And with food photography, I can go at my own pace. I can move things around. I can try different setups. And I only have to rely on myself in order to complete a project. Not that I don't love working with other people, but different types of photography, like portrait photography, you're working with other people. There might be little kids that you have to wrangle. So I just found that working with food and food photography just allowed me to really control everything, every element of it. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I love that you were really intentional about thinking about what was right for you and the way that you like to work because I think that's so true no matter what kind of entrepreneur you are. I had to learn that in my design business. Like, do I like working by myself more better? Like, what types of client projects do I want to take on? So that's a really good point there.
Mhm. Thanks.
Yeah, and I'm curious, I know you have a particular style, and especially your style has developed over time, but when you first started out with the photography, were you drawn to any certain style, or did it just kind of show up as you practiced?
I think I've always liked the light and airy
Mm-hmm.
look, whether it's portrait photography or food photography. I love natural light. So, incorporating a lot of natural light, pastels, light tones, that to me is really calming and pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I do think that that had a big impact on my photography style, even with food. I know at the beginning there were other photographers who, there's these other photographers who have a really moody style and they
Mm-hmm.
incorporate a lot of rich tones and dark tones. And I experimented with that a little bit, but it didn't really feel like it was me. So I ended up just kind of stripping it all back and doing white backdrops for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
white linens, soft colors, soft tones. And I just felt like that's where I really found my place.
Gotcha. I love it. And I feel like the light area is so you, like with the soft colors and more calming. So I love how you've embraced it. I think when you find a style that goes well with your personality, it works well.
I totally agree.
And so we just talked about your favorite part of food photography. So now I'm curious, what's the most challenging part, do you think?
Well, there's a few challenges. And when it comes to food photography, obviously my main focus is desserts. So
Mhm.
I've kind of set myself up there to where, I mean, desserts are usually very visually appealing on their own. They're pretty
Mhm.
and they're cute, but it can get really challenging if the food itself maybe isn't as pretty as I want it
Mhm.
to be, or I have a lot of respect for food photographers who do savory dishes and they're able to make like a pasta or a beef stew or something like that look
Mhm.
really appealing and make you really want to eat it. But with desserts, it can be challenging with maybe a particular recipe doesn't pan out as I had envisioned or as I
Mhm.
planned. And there's a lot of prep work that goes into a shoot. So if you spend all this time creating a recipe, making the recipe,
Mhm.
and maybe it just doesn't turn out how you hoped it would, or maybe something gets a little bit overcooked,
Mhm.
it can really throw things
Yeah,
off track. That ends up being, it could be potentially some wasted time.
sure.
Um, but then also, depending on the food, sometimes you have to work quickly. For example, if I'm photographing ice cream, I only have a
Mhm.
certain window of time before it just completely melts.
Yeah.
Or if I want to get that perfect ooey gooey melty shot of some cookies that are fresh out of the oven with the melty chocolate chips, like you
Mhm.
only have kind of a certain window of time to work with. So you have to be focused and have a plan, or else it'll be harder to capture that perfect shot. But I guess one more
Yeah.
thing is that um, when working with food, there's always the element of having to resist the urge to just eat it,
Oh, yeah.
or keeping my husband out of it.
Sure. Definitely. I always tell my family I'll, like, pick a few, like, of the cookies I made or of the cupcakes that I made, and I'll set them aside and say, like, "I'm gonna take pictures for Instagram, don't eat these yet."
Yep, yep. Or I'll eat one of the ugly ones, or give my
Mhm.
husband one of the ones where that maybe it's not as symmetrical or not as pretty. You
Yeah,
can eat that one first.
I definitely love doing that too. And I love what you said, it's so true, with food photography, it's different because it's more time sensitive, you really have to do things in real time where you can't just press pause and try to do something else.
There's certain desserts that you have a lot more flexibility with,
Mhm.
cupcakes. Those are you're going to have a lot of time to work with those,
Sure.
or but yeah, there are certain foods that it might really take some prep work to make sure you're going to get that shot while the food is in the state that you want it to be.
Mhm. I'm gonna pivot a little bit. We've been talking about food photography in general, and then as I've worked with you as your designer, one thing I noticed about you is like you're really good at networking and doing brand partnerships as part of your business, but doing it in a genuine way where people feel like they're friends with you and like
Mhm.
people want to connect with you on Instagram because you're a friend now. And so I was wondering, like, with that, how did that come about? Do you think with the networking and it being genuine, was that practice or is that something you're just naturally good at?
Oh, well, thank you. I really appreciate you saying that, Maya, because to me, it really is important to build
Mhm,
connections with my online community. I mean, I have local friends on my social
mhm,
networks, but really a lot of the people that I've connected with have been solely based on these social media networks. So I think at the end of the day, I feel like we have to stay humble. I mean, we're all
mhm.
human and we can't take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah.
It's okay to be a little silly. it's okay to have bad days, but it's okay to
Mhm.
have good days too, and share that and share those moments together and celebrate each other and support each other. So I think that's what makes us relatable.
Mhm.
And ultimately, my goal with my social networks is to make it a positive place where we're all treated with kindness and courtesy. And I'm just really thankful for the friends that I've made and all the support that we can give each other.
For sure. I love that. And with that too, this is more of like the businessy side of your messaging, but I know like when we first started working together, you told me you wanted to emphasize like of course being that genuine welcoming brand, but also you're a food photographer, not a food blogger, and that was a really important distinction for you. And so I was curious for people listening who maybe haven't thought about that. Where do you kind of draw the line between being primarily a food photographer or a food blogger?
Well, as a food photographer, my focus is to help my clients meet their marketing goals. So I'm
Mhm.
very client focused.
Okay.
I work with brands either as a freelancer or on a paid partnership level. So
Mhm.
freelancing might look like simply taking product photos for the brand to use for their marketing materials, or creating recipes and photography for the brand to use on their websites and to post on their own channels. And then with paid partnerships, I'll share my content on my social networks, and then, that'll be shared with my audience or as a collaboration. So that's kind of where the food photography focus comes into play. So, on the other hand, food bloggers, from my understanding, I don't want to
Mhm.
speak too much on behalf of other food bloggers, but food bloggers, they might tend to focus on creating recipes to be shared on their networks, on their website, and building that wide
Mhm.
index of recipes that they can share with their devoted followers, to create that trusted relationship. And they may have other various types of income streams, including
Mhm.
generating a lot of traffic on their site and getting ad revenue on their website. I actually know many food bloggers who are also food photographers, and
Sure.
they just do everything, and I think that
Yeah.
that is really really impressive. But personally, I don't really enjoy the blogging side of things.
Mhm.
I'd rather just focus on the photography, and while I do like creating recipes, I kind of utilize my recipe creation to meet the needs of my clients.
Yeah, I love the way you made that distinction there. And you're also right. You know, you can do both. And I also love that there's kind of a spectrum where, like, if you want to do food photography and a little bit of food blogging, you can do that as well, or do mostly food blogging with a little bit of food photography. I love that seeing those two blend more often with people's businesses now. And I know something smart that you do is that even though you like you said, your full focus is in the recipes, you still do blog some. And I know we
Mhm.
talked about this during your project. If you blog some, that can help with your website traffic, which is great. But I also really respect that you're like, I'm not gonna go full into the blogging thing because that's not my passion. And
Mhm.
you focus on the food photography and really have made that an asset for your business.
Thank you. I'm glad that it's coming through and that it's visible to others, because I feel like many days I'm still just
Mhm.
figuring all of this out.
For sure. I feel like business is always like like there's always a new challenge or
Mhm.
when you're trying to improve on this thing or try something new, something else to learn. But that's what makes it fun.
Yep, I agree. We always have to be growing.
And so we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but your brand partnerships, like you said, working with clients is a big part of your business. And I was curious, what is it about the brand collaborations that you really enjoy that made you say, okay, this is kind of the route I want to go with food photography?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There's so many reputable and trusted brands in the food
Mhm.
industry, and we all are probably utilizing most of these brands anyways. We have a
Mhm.
full pantry of all these big brands that we see every day.
For sure.
So when I have an opportunity to work with a brand that I already use regularly, it
Mhm.
kind of feels like a no-brainer. I'm already using their products and I'm happy to share about it. And it's important to me that I only work with brands that I know and that I trust. And I would never partner with a brand if I didn't feel like I was aligned or if it was a good fit. So if it's something that I'm already familiar with and I'm using it regularly, it just makes sense.
Yeah, I love that because, like you said, I think it makes it easier to work with a brand that you're more familiar with, that you already genuinely enjoy using and things like that.
Mhm.
And that kind of leads me into my next question. If someone's new to brand partnerships, where do you recommend that they start? Would it be like looking at brands that they already love?
Um, so when it comes to a creator that's maybe new to brand partnerships, I would recommend a few things. First, I would say be present on social media
Mhm,
and engage with those dream brands.
mhm,
Identify some of those brands. Ideally, identify some of the brands that you already see actively working with other creators because
mhm,
chances are they're going to be more open to other partnerships.
mhm,
So be present on social media and engage with those dream brands, comment on their things and, share something of theirs that you think was really helpful or
mhm,
meaningful. And then two, focus on building your own portfolio and
mhm,
ensure that the work that you're sharing is a true reflection of your style. Show what makes you unique and show those brands why they might want to work with you.
mhm,
And then third, I would say don't be afraid to reach out. I mean, message the brand and ask for someone that you can contact via email to get a conversation started or get their attention by tagging them in a story. Or if you're using their product, you could even tag them in a post of something that maybe you've made with their product. And I think that that's a great way to get the conversation started. That's actually how I got my first client
mhm.
was that I had purchased one of their products and I was really excited about it. It was a hot chocolate maker. And I shared about it in my Instagram stories because I was just so excited to make some amazing hot chocolate. And that led to a conversation, which led to a lasting partnership.
Wow, yeah. Those are really great tips, and I'll make sure I outline everything in the show notes for this episode as well so everyone can reference that. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
And I'm gonna have to ask you about the hot chocolate maker too, because I haven't had one of those since I was a kid, but I'd love to get another one.
Yes, it is called the Velvetizer from Hotel Chocolat.
Okay, awesome. I need to check that out.
Yes, definitely.
One last question for you that I've been asking everybody throughout the series. What's the best piece of encouragement that you've received about being an entrepreneur?
Something that has really helped me is to find a niche and really focus on what you can bring to the table and stay
Mhm,
genuine. Actually, I would say that the piece of encouragement that I got actually came from my husband.
mhm,
I'll give you a little story. So, I was only a few months into food photography.
mhm.
I had I had made the pivot from French vanilla bakery to French vanilla photography, and I was at that moment where I was really trying to figure out what am I even doing?
Yeah.
Like, what is this and where is this going? And I had already worked with a couple clients, but my contracts had they had just ended and I
Mhm,
was in the middle of working with some new clients. And I felt like I was just really struggling to find my place. And we were just out and about running some errands.
mhm,
And we were sitting in the parking lot somewhere. And I just had a little moment and told my husband, I don't really even know what I'm doing with this business. Like, do I keep going? Like, what is this? I'm pouring all this time and energy into it. And I don't really even know what I'm doing. And my husband asked me, do you love doing it? And I
mhm,
said, I really do. He's like, do you love baking? I said, yeah. He said, do you love photography? I said, I
mhm,
do. And he said, then what does it matter what's coming with your business? He's like, it could just be a hobby. And if it is, that's okay. There's plenty of people who have hobbies that don't generate any income. And if
mhm,
that's what this is for you, then that's okay, as long as it's making you happy. And I was
mhm,
like, yeah, I guess you're right, because I do have a full time job. That's where the
mhm,
majority of my income comes from. So I had decided at that moment that that was just this was just going to be my creative outlet. If
Mhm.
something more comes of it, great. If not, well, that's okay too, because I love doing it. So at that moment, I just decided that I was going to focus on building my portfolio and just sharing things that I liked, my
Mhm.
own personal style. I love tea time. I'm going to, take some pictures of some tea and some scones. And I love flowers. So I'm going to incorporate more flowers into my photography. And I just want to make sure that this just is me. I'm not
Mhm.
going to do what other people are doing. I'm just going to do what I like. And in that time frame, I felt like I ended up producing some work that I am still so proud of,
Mhm.
and probably some of the most beautiful images that I've ever taken, just focusing on my passion. So, in summary, I ended up producing a lot of work that helped to build this portfolio that in the end would eventually gain the attention of some of my dream brands. And that's
Mhm.
actually what really led to a flourishing business. And I would say what I got out of that is for encouragement for other photographers or food bloggers. If this is something you aspire to do, focus on doing what feels natural for you and what brings you joy, and the pieces will fall into place where they are meant to.
For sure, I can relate to that so much, and it's funny because I'd say some of the best advice that I've ever gotten came from my dad when we were out running errands and we were sitting in a parking lot too.
Oh
And
my
he said
goodness,
he
that's so
said
funny.
something similar like, "You enjoyed this. If it's meant to be, it'll work out. If not, like, something else will come, but, like, don't give up on it just because it feels hard." And then my mentor, especially, like, last year and the year before that, she kinda said, like, "Focus on what you wanna be known for, but just have fun and, like, when you're quiet and you're alone, what do you wanna create and make more of that." And that's how I started pivoting into the food space because I love to bake. I'm not necessarily a food blogger, but I love being able to design for the food photographers and food bloggers.
That's wonderful. I love to hear that, Maya. I like that our stories are so similar. And I feel like
Mhm,
a lot of other creators could probably relate to a similar situation. You end up kind of having this defining moment where you're
mhm,
like a little epiphany or a revelation. Like, where am I going? It's been great so far, but where is this taking me?
mhm.
And then you just have to reevaluate some things. And when you start doing what you really love and want to make sure that it's a true reflection of you, that's when you find your people.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I really enjoyed talking to you. I think you're just the best. But for everybody
Oh,
who's new to you and wants to connect with you further, will you just let them know how they can get in touch with you online?
yeah, absolutely. I am most active on my Instagram page, French Vanilla Baker, but I also have a website, which is beautifully designed
Mhm,
by Maya Palmer, which is www.frenchvanillabakery.com. I do have a TikTok, but it's not very
mhm.
active. I'm
That's
really
okay.
not a
I'm
good
not on
TikTok.
TikTok.
But yeah, so Instagram is where you'll find me most active, and make sure to check out my absolutely beautiful website that Maya so brilliantly designed for me.
For sure. Thank you. And I'll be sure to put all of your links in the show notes for the episode as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Maya. This was really nice.